Welcome to the deep dive. So what we do here is take the info you're curious about, maybe articles, research, whatever you send, and we pull out the key stuff, the important bits.
Exactly. It's about getting you informed, feeling like you know what's going on, but without, getting totally bogged down.
Yeah, skipping the overwhelm. And today we're jumping into something really interesting, actually sent in by one of you. It's about the Gemini New Moon.
That's right. Happening May 27th, 2025. We've got this article looking at the astrological side of things.
Okay, so our mission for this deep dive, let's figure out what this event is all about, the main themes, and how it might actually affect things. Communication, learning, transformation, the article hits on these.
And look, even if astrology isn't really your thing, sometimes the themes underneath, they can offer some, well, pretty relevant ways of looking at things.
Definitely. Okay, so let's start basic. A new moon. What are we actually talking about astrologically?
Think of it like a cosmic refresh button. It's basically when the sun and the moon line up in the same zodiac sign. That kicks off a whole new lunar cycle.
A new cycle.
Yeah, and energetically, it's seen as a really good time for, starting fresh, setting new intentions,
Right, a clean slate. And this time, it's happening in Gemini. What does Gemini bring to the table? What's its vibe?
Gemini is, well, it's the sign of the twins, right? So think duality, multiplicity. It's all about being flexible, adaptable, and really big on communication, learning, thinking, the intellect.
Okay.
So a new moon in Gemini, it basically just turns the volume up on all that mental communicative energy. The source also notes it's in the first 10 degrees, the first decan at 6 degrees, and that part is ruled by Mercury.
Mercury, planet of communication. Makes sense for Gemini. So May 27th, 2025. Who's likely to feel this new moon the most, according to the article?
Well, it mentions people with birthdays right around then, say May 26th, 27th, 28th. For them, the year ahead could be pretty significant, maybe a new chapter starting in their personal development. Interesting.
And also, anyone with planets in their own chart around that specific point, 6 degrees of Gemini, or even in the other mutable signs, that's Sagittarius, Virgo, and Pisces.
Mutable signs, they're the adaptable ones, right?
Exactly. So if you have placements there, it's like those points in your personal blueprint are getting an extra bit of energy, little spark.
You mentioned Mercury earlier, and the article really seems to zoom in on its role. Why is Mercury so important for this specific new moon?
It's super key because Mercury doesn't just link to Gemini, it actually rules Gemini. And the really interesting bit here is that Mercury itself is also in Gemini during this new moon.
So it's home.
Right, it's in its home sign. And the article suggests this brings real mental sharpness, a flood of new ideas, and strong potential for new starts specifically around thinking, talking, writing, learning. You might just feel extra curious, wanting to soak up knowledge.
Okay, so it sounds like if you've had an idea bubbling away, this might be the moment to turn up the heat. What kind of actions does the article say this energy supports? Yeah, it points to a few things. It's supposedly a great time for learning something new. Or, the flip side, sharing what you know, maybe teaching formally or informally.
Right.
It could be anything from finally taking that course to, well, they actually mentioned starting a podcast or YouTube channel. Basically, any platform where you're sharing your thoughts.
Putting your voice out there.
Exactly. It's about actively looking for knowledge or kicking off projects that really get your brain working. If you've been thinking about studying something or finding a new way to express your expertise, this could be, a prime time to jump in.
Okay. Now, astrology often talks about how planets connect, the aspects between them. The article mentions a trigon with Pluto in Aquarius. What's the significance of that connection?
Yeah, so a trigon is generally a harmonious link. And this one, between the new moon in Gemini and Pluto in Aquarius, it's seen as an invitation to really examine our core thinking patterns.
Deeper stuff.
Yeah, potentially reshaping beliefs we've held for a long time, breaking free from old ways of thinking that might be holding us back. The article specifically mentions it supports things like shadow work, that kind of self-reflection,
Okay.
and also journaling, having really deep, meaningful conversations, or even doing research that requires digging beneath the surface. It's a chance to kind of transform how we process information.
That sounds like it could lead to some pretty big internal shifts.
It could, yeah.
What about the other aspect mentioned? A sextile with Neptune and Saturn in Aries. How does that mix things up?
Well, if the Pluto thing is about deep internal shifts, this sextile, another generally helpful connection, brings more, let's say, grounded energy. Aries brings the spark, the passion, the initiative to start things.
Right, that Aries fire.
Yeah. Then Saturn comes in with structure, discipline, helping build something solid. And Neptune, usually linked to inspiration, dreams. Here, it adds the ability to actually turn those visions into something real, something tangible.
Okay, so it's like taking those airy Gemini ideas and giving them some solid footing.
That's a great way to put it. It's not just about the initial idea flash, it's about the follow-through.
Makes sense.
Yeah, the article really emphasizes this is a good time for launching stuff that needs both creativity and a practical plan. Like, finally writing that book, or starting a business, or committing to long-term studies.
The vision and structure.
Exactly. And with Neptune in the mix, it also suggests intuition, maybe even a sense of spiritual nudge could be part of what motivates you. Like your gut feeling really helps shape your strategy.
So pulling all these different threads together,
Yeah.
what are the big overarching themes the article points to for this Gemini new moon?
The main vibe seems to be supporting new projects, especially anything involving learning, education, or communication, like marketing plans, getting your message across effectively. And it really highlights this blend of logic and intuition, needing both the smart strategy and that gut feeling, that soul aspect. And finally, the power of conversation, having those key talks that can really spark positive change.
Right, makes sense. Sounds like a potentially very productive time. Now, the article goes into how this might play out differently for each zodiac sign. Should we run through those? Let's start with Aries.
Sure. For Aries, this new moon lights up their third house. That's all about communication, siblings, neighbors, short trips, learning practical skills, agreements, that kind of thing.
Everyday communication.
Yeah. So the article suggests it could be a time for them to clear the air in relationships, have some really honest talks, maybe get paperwork organized. Could also mean more involvement in their local community or just generally more mental activity.
Okay. What about Taurus?
For Taurus, it's the second house. This is about money, possessions, income, but also self-worth and stability. So maybe a good time to look at the budget, brainstorm new income streams.
Practical stuff.
Very practical. And also to reflect on their values, what security means to them. The article even floats the idea of new business concepts popping up or just rethinking their relationship with money generally.
Interesting. And for Gemini, it's happening in their sign.
Yeah, this is a big one for Geminis. It's in their first house, the house of self. So physical appearance, personality, how they come across to others.
Like a personal relaunch.
Kind of. A personal reset. Time to maybe reevaluate who they are, how they think, their style, how they communicate. Good moment for a self-check-in, maybe updating how they present themselves.
Makes sense to be so focused on them. How about Cancer?
For Cancer, it hits the 12th house. This is the zone of the hidden, the subconscious, dreams, spirituality, endings, solitude.
More behind the scenes.
Exactly. They might feel a bit mentally buzzy or restless when alone, according to the article. But it's also flagged as a great time for things like dream journaling, meditation, listening to music, decluttering both physical and mental space, and really tuning into their intuition, trusting those inner whispers.
Okay. Moving on to Leo.
Leos get this in their 11th house. This is friends, groups, networks, hopes, wishes, future aspirations.
Social connections and goals.
Right. So could mean new starts in their social life, maybe kicking off group projects, perhaps refreshing their online or social media presence, getting clearer on their long-term vision. Friendships based on shared ideas and curiosity could really thrive now.
And for Virgo?
Virgo sees this in their 10th house. That's the big one for career, public image, reputation, status, achievements.
Professional life.
Yep. The article suggests they might get a clearer vision of their professional goals. Could be time for important meetings, maybe seeking out mentors. It's also noted as a good time for looking back at their career path and thinking about where they're headed.
Libra's turn. What's the focus?
For Libra, it's the 9th house. This covers higher learning, beliefs, personal philosophy, long-distance travel, publishing, law, big picture stuff.
Expanding horizons.
Totally. Highlighted as excellent for maybe learning a language, diving into personal development, organizing their books, maybe even thinking about studying abroad or publishing something. Could also be a time to sort out travel plans or documents.
Okay, Scorpio next.
For Scorpio, it's the 8th house. This is a deep one. Transformation, shared resources like finances with partners or banks, intimacy, secrets, healing, psychological stuff.
Intense themes.
Can be, yeah. The article points to possibly renegotiating debts or loans, dealing with mortgages, discussing business partnerships, new collaborations might emerge, but it does add a note of caution. Be thorough with any agreements or contracts signed now. Read the fine print.
Good advice. Sagittarius.
Sagittarius gets the new moon in their 7th house. This is all about one-on-one relationships, romantic partners, business partners, close friends, even open enemies, contracts.
Partnerships.
Key partnerships, yeah. So expect important conversations there, maybe new beginnings in relationships, getting clear on expectations, hopefully bringing a bit more lightness or fun into those connections too.
What about Capricorn?
Capricorn has the 6th house activated. This is daily routines, work environment, health, wellness, habits, service to others, pets.
The day-to-day grind, but in a good way.
Kind of, yeah. The systems that keep life running. So, new starts here. Maybe changing up their daily schedule, starting a new health kick, rethinking their work-life situation, organizing their workspace, maybe learning a new skill for their job.
Almost done. Aquarius.
Aquarius 5th house. This is creativity, romance, children, fun, hobbies, self-expression, pleasure.
The fun house.
Pretty much. So new beginnings here are likely. Starting creative projects, maybe new romantic sparks flying, generally finding more ways to engage in joyful activities. The article suggests a need for them to maybe experiment more with how they express themselves creatively.
And last but not least, Pisces.
For Pisces, it's the 4th house. Home, family, roots, emotional foundations, property, parents, the past.
Foundational stuff.
Very. Could signal new things related to home, maybe moving, renovating, or reevaluating family relationships. The article stresses needing more communication at home, maybe creating a space for learning there, or finally tackling lingering family issues.
Yeah, okay, that covers everyone. So just to loop back and sort of summarize the main point from this deep dive into the Gemini New Moon on May 27th, 2025.
It really looks like a potent time for new beginnings,
Yeah.
especially around how we communicate, how we learn, how we think, with Mercury being so strong right there in Gemini.
Right, and its home sign.
Yeah, the potential for fresh ideas, clear thinking, and making meaningful connections just seems really heightened.
And it really does feel like thinking about which of those zodiac descriptions kind of clicks for you could be insightful. Even if you don't normally track this stuff, you might see some, echoes in your own life.
Absolutely. And maybe, as a final thought to take away from this, think about how you could consciously, plant some seeds around communication or learning right now. What ideas are buzzing? What kind of growth do you hope comes from them in the long run? And maybe, what's the most important conversation you could start in the coming weeks?